Hello and welcome to the Story Engine podcast. My name is Kyle Gray, and today on the show we have Clint Arthur. Clint is an engineer and an artist in the craft of celebrity. And we are going to talk about how to create, manufacture, and leverage celebrity to be the greatest tool in your business to spread your message. So without any further ado, let's hand it over to Clint. Clint Arthur, welcome to the Story Engine podcast.
Thank you very much. Good to be with you.
Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're showing up in the world today? And we'll dive into the magic of celebrity.
Okay, well, I'm sitting in a chair right now about, 200 yards away from where I grew up as a boy in New York City. I went to PS 40, which was about 4 blocks away from here. And then I went to Junior High School 104, which was 3 blocks away from here. And then I went to Stuyvesant High School, which was an 8-minute walk down 2nd Avenue. So who I am is I am a product of New York City. I'm a native New Yorker. And that tells you more about me than anybody could tell you about themselves.
I love that. But I'm not that familiar with I have like a sense, maybe like a smell of what makes a New Yorker, but I would love to hear like what you're most proud of in that of like what are the values and the things about growing up in New York that you're most proud of, and how do you bring that into your life and your work?
I'm most proud of my situational awareness. I'm most proud of my directness. I am most proud of my complete and total honesty about what I think about you and how you're doing and whether I think you're doing it right or wrong. And I'm most proud of how I really know what I'm talking about when it comes to you performing in front of me.
Tell me, growing up in a city where there are so many people around and so much noise and so many demands on your attention, some people trying to sell you things, other like dangers, all kinds of things happening at the same time. And you have mastered the art of celebrity, shining brighter than most and using that as a way to channel a message and a goal in a business. Tell me what you learned from growing up in New York that has really infused into your philosophy of celebrity.
Well, fascinatingly enough, when I was a little boy, I felt completely anonymous. That's the number one impression I have as being a child in New York City, was that I'd walk around in the streets and I would never, ever see anyone that I knew because there's so many millions of people in the streets. I was a completely anonymous person. And it's so fascinating because even though what I specialize in is what people call celebrity, people don't really understand celebrity and what that really means. Celebrity is specific to a group, specific to a lot of times a room. In my case, it is specific to a person's search on Google for your name. I help you to create celebrity for the search of your name on Google, or oftentimes today on AI, which gives results based on Google a lot of times. And the fascinating thing is that my job is helping people to be somebody, helping people to be a celebrity. But that doesn't mean that you lose your anonymity. That's the fascinating thing, and that was my favorite part about growing up in New York City, was that I'd walk down the street in this sea of people and I would never see anybody that I knew. And today I walk down the street in New York City and nobody knows who I am. But if you look for me on Google, then you will see Clint Arthur owns the first 5 pages of Google.
Mm-hmm. I like how you break down the different kinds of celebrity. And I've heard this expressed from different leaders or on different podcasts. I would like to be famous in a very specific room. I'd like to walk into a specific room filled with people who would be perfect clients for me and all of them to know my name and follow me. But I don't want to be Britney Spears celebrity famous and going down. You can't even go out and get a coffee without getting totally swarmed.
Yeah.
And what you've said about being a celebrity in search is a perfect scalable way to make that happen.
Yeah, don't worry about being Britney Spears. You're never going to be Britney Spears. Being Britney Spears is like getting hit by a bolt of lightning. It's never going to happen to you, ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not personally
No,
expecting
I'm
that
I'm
either.
not you. I'm just saying
Yeah.
whoever's watching this, don't worry
Yeah,
about it.
definitely.
You could never pay enough money. You could pay all the money you have for the rest of your life and you'll never be Britney Spears.
So tell me more about the process and the flow of celebrity. We've said search engines, so I know that my name's coming up first. Is there more that you engineer into this process once I click through? Where else do you build celebrity into the people that you work with?
Well, the way your name comes up first, it's not just coming up first. Like I said, I own the first 5 pages of Google are
Hmm.
all my marketing. They're all my marketing, all those pages. And you can't buy that.
No.
The first person who comes up with my name, who's not me, is dead. It's his obituary. So if you want to compete with me on Google, it's actually going to kill you.
Hmm.
And that's actually the goal that I want. I want my competition to think, I better not try to compete using the name Clint Arthur because it'll kill me to try to compete that way. That's actually possible. I'm not the only one who does that. If you think about Grant Cardone, you know who that is?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, right? He's not even famous. He's not Britney Spears by a long shot.
That's
But
true.
you probably had a very high regard for him, much higher than when I just said he's not Britney Spears. A lot of people think he's super famous, or Tony Robbins. You know who Tony Robbins is?
Hmm.
He's another one. But I assure you, he ain't no Britney Spears. He's just another entrepreneur like me. He's using certain techniques. So what happens to you when you're in the process of becoming a celebrity in the Clint Arthur model and owning pages of Google for your results? Well, first of all, it develops you as a person. That's my favorite part about it.
Hmm.
That's, I think, the most important part about it. It's not the houses, the cars, the vacations, the money in the bank, the expensive dinners in restaurants that you've never heard of because they cost too much money. It's who you become in this process. It is a transformational experience to do celebrity stuff. And I say do celebrity stuff because the more celebrity stuff you do, the more of a real celebrity you become, the more famous you kind of become. And the more you start interacting with people who are actually really famous. Like one time, a long time ago, actually, I mean, I'd been doing celebrity stuff for about 7 years when I went on vacation. And who else was vacationing there? John Travolta and his family. So, me and my clients all got pictures with John Travolta because we were doing celebrity stuff. We were in a celebrity environment. We were in an environment where famous people go. And the more of this that you do, the more of a celebrity you really become. At first, it feels like uncomfortable. It feels unnatural. I don't want to say it feels like you're an imposter, but a lot of people use the word imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
when describing the way they feel about their own careers or their own lives, that you hear that term, imposter syndrome, and that's a real thing.
I
But
think it happens at every level of success. And as far as I've seen, it's always imposter syndrome always comes when you're focused on yourself and your own shortcomings. And I think the cure is always the same, which is focusing on the people that need you and you need to serve will always help you through it.
yeah, and the reason people get imposter syndrome is because they're going beyond their previous experience levels.
Yeah.
So this type of work definitely pushes you there because for a lot of people, I make you do things that people don't normally do, which is get up in front of the group at a podium. It's really called the lectern, but more
Hmm.
people know it as a podium. I make you get up at a podium at a very important place and then speak to the group. Tell your story to the group. Why tell your story? Because that's really the only thing that you have that's yours. Everything else, all the information that you talk about, anybody could have that information on Google. It's not yours.
Even more so
Most
with
people
AI
only
these days.
Yeah, most people only talk about information that anybody could talk about. They're wasting their time. The only really unique thing you have is your story. So I have you go up on the stage, tell your story, and for a lot of people that's a new experience.
Yes, it's a fun one. So a burning question I have is, you've mentioned my name's on the first 5 page of Google, and there's an implicit understanding of celebrity involves a person. You've only named names, not brands.
Right.
And so it sounds like you work exclusively with personal brands, and there's probably something necessary and essential in the infusion of what celebrity is that you would have to be, this way.
Yeah, because I think that people don't buy products, they buy people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think. Unless you're Nike. But even with Nike, they were able to fuse a person onto their most successful products, which were the Air Jordans.
Mm-hmm.
People were buying Michael Jordan. They were buying his perceived superpowers to put on their feet when they were buying an Air Jordan. So they were able to take a person and put him in a shoe and got you to buy the shoe because of the person. And they still do that to an extent, although not as successfully as with the Air Jordan, which was their most popular shoe of all time. So I think people buy people. They don't really buy products. I mean, I've sold lots and lots and lots of, millions of dollars of memberships in my community of celebrity entrepreneurs. And it includes products. But what they're really buying is my confidence in what I can deliver, my confidence in my promises that when I tell you you're going to be speaking at the University of London or at the Royal College of Physicians or at Stonehenge or at the Bankers Club of Mexico, or that you're going to be on the NASDAQ Jumbotron, or that you're going to speak at NASDAQ, that I'm going to deliver on that. They're buying me and my promises and my confidence and my history and my results. All of those things are delivered by me. And really what they want is they want that one-on-one consultation time with me to help them to design their career, to hone their message, or to give them a plan of how they are going to have visibility in a glut of sameness.
Can you describe who makes for a great client? We've said celebrity
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, but what are the qualities of somebody that can best be impacted by this
My
process?
favorite client is a true subject matter expert in a topic that is unusual. That's the best. An unusual
Mm-hmm.
topic. So some unusual clients who have stood out and had tremendous success included clients who are experts at decorating with balloons. Or one woman was the inventor of the science of namology, which is, what does your name mean? She's why on the bottom left corner it says Clint with 3Ts.com, because she said, Clint, I wish you could add an extra T to the end of your name, because the T's always end up on top. And I went on Google and I couldn't get Clint with 2Ts, but I did get Clint with 3Ts.com. So that has been a real successful thing for me. It's very easy for people to remember. Go to Clint with 3Ts.com if you want to check out a couple of stories, a couple of celebrity attachments, a couple of offerings that I have. If you're interested in getting mentorship from me, go to Clint with 3Ts.com. Easy.
Mm-hmm.
So who else? A bone broth expert, Dr. Kellyanne Petrucci. She now has had 2 New York Times bestselling books on bone broth.
Mm-hmm.
And she also has her products on the shelves at every CVS drugstore and every Wegmans supermarket. And what was she on today? She was on The View. Like, I saw a post of her on Facebook. Very excited to be going on The View today. She's been on a million shows. She was a regular on Dr. Oz when he still had a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
She was a regular recurring guest every month, getting paid to go on Dr. Oz. Could you imagine? And so what's the other kind of client that I really like? You don't have to be a unique individual. It's very hard to be unique. Mm-hmm. There is, like I said, a sea of sameness out there. But the other kind of person is a person who really, really wants it, who has a burning desire, who is willing to work harder, who's willing to travel and go on TV shows all across the country. If you're that kind of person, if you really want it, then you don't need to invest as much with me to come to my events. You could come to one of my training events where I train you how to get on TV as much as you want for free. And you could just go on TV all across the country as much as you want. And that's a really tremendous way to transform. I've been on 155 TV appearances all across the country and on BBC and Sky News and other ones around the world. And TV is a super powerful transformation device for being a speaker, for being a personality, for having assets that help you to dominate Google and to become more and do more and have more.
Excellent. So I've been listening very carefully to what you've been saying and trying to extrapolate the main problems that your clients would be having. And what I'm guessing, and I'd love for you to correct me, is one, they feel stuck at a plateau in their business and they're not sure what effort's working and what effort's not working and where to apply it. They wouldn't admit this, but they're scared of visibility and they're feeling the effects of being scared of being visible, which is usually like keeping really busy, or they're not sure how to be visible. The efforts that they are doing are getting wasted. And this is all adding up to losing a connection with the work that they're doing. They're on the edge of burnout because they don't know, most of the efforts being wasted, but they don't know what to keep or what to choose. And they want to be seen and they love what they're doing, but they're feeling discouraged. Is there anything else that you would cover?
Scared of visibility. That was a very fascinating thing. They're scared of visibility because, the number one reason why people don't do stuff is because they don't think it's going to work.
Okay.
For them or at all. They don't believe. I don't blame them for not believing. There's so much BS out in the marketplace. There's so many false promises and lies. Straight up lies. Failures to deliver. Inabilities to deliver the promises. So much of that. So I don't blame people who are skeptical about offers or their own ability to succeed or perform. However, that's why I only offer stuff that I can guarantee. I guarantee everything that I do. So, a lot of people are afraid to try and fail again, or maybe they've never tried because it's just impossible to be visible in the world. And to a certain extent, it is impossible to be visible in the world, but you can be visible to a target market. And I think that for a lot of these prospective clients, they lack a certain knowledge about what can be achieved and what should be attempted in order to strategically create a beachhead of visibility that you can build off of.
One of the things that I think this is, I'm really curious to hear your opinion, but I think about these things all the time. And I think that somebody at this point, to get to this problem point that we're describing, you have to be a high achiever and do a lot of great things. And you've gotten a certain amount of place from your very hard work. But kind of what you said before, the only thing that matters is your story in the end. But because we're high achievers, we overvalue our achievements and our knowledge. And when we try to be a celebrity, we lean on that and we discount our own story. And so we skip it or glaze over it quickly to try and prove to our audience that we are an authority. Look at how smart I am. It is undeniable, instead of actually sharing who we are.
Yeah, that's true. People want to look smart. People want to look like they know what they're talking about. And unfortunately, nobody really gives a shit. They only care about the story. They really do.
Yeah. So next question, and I think I've guessed a couple of these things as well. But what do you think about how your process, how you get somebody there? What is better or different or unique? The first thing that I've heard you say is I only offer what I can guarantee. And then there's something about being visible and celebrity to the right people, the right market, and the efficiency of that. What is another thing that you think makes your process different or better?
Well, I've identified something really smart that nobody else seems to understand. Even a lot of my prospects don't get it. There's this one moron on Facebook who I talked to for an hour, and he came referred by one of my top clients, but he still doesn't get it. And that is, most of the time when you are a speaker, your success as a speaker is measured by how many people you speak to in the room. You think about Tony Robbins, who we both admire. I was the host of his 60th birthday party. That's how much I admire him. That cost me a lot of money. And and I only say that to tell you how much I admire Tony Robbins.
Mhm.
And he is a celebrity when he speaks because he speaks to an auditorium or an arena full of 5,000 people. And most of the time, a speaker who is trying to achieve, that's the measure of success. Oh, I was in the Meadowlands Arena and I spoke to 5,000 people. Okay, that's what I call VIP speaking, speaking at a very important place, and that place is a lot of people in the Meadowlands Arena. But what I've discovered and what makes me unique is that I can do events with 50 or 100 people at the University of London or at NASDAQ or at the New York Academy of Medicine or the New York City Bar Association or at Oxford University or at the Royal College of Physicians. And by putting you at a podium that has those names on it of those places, I've given you almost as much status as putting you in front of 5,000 people for your video. When I shoot that video of you in front of 50 or 100 people, man, that looks powerful. That looks like you're really doing something. Then one of the people who, I don't know, for whatever reason, knows what I'm doing. He's a speaker coach. He's helped, I don't want to say his name, but he's retired now recently and he's helped 3,000 financial advisors with their signature stories. And he's like, I wish I met you and worked with you sooner, Clint, because with you, a person doesn't even have to be a good speaker. You could just make them look like they're a good speaker. And there's a lot of value in just looking like you're a great speaker. There's a lot
Mhm.
of value in that for marketing and for celebrity positioning. If you look like you're a great speaker in front of 50 people in suits and ties at a very important place like NASDAQ or Oxford, that has a lot of value.
I'm going to
If
call
you,
it engineered celebrity.
well, uh, okay.
You don't like it. It's not exciting enough yet.
No, no,
But it's like built in, it's crafted, and it accelerates my celebrity status because you can put me in the situations and places. And I think people are scared of visibility, not they're scared that they're going to be visible and look bad,
mhm.
but they're more excited to be visible if they know they look good and you're creating the stage for that, right?
Yeah, that's another unique advantage that I have is that my wife, Allie, was a film and TV producer for decades. She was chair of the Producers Guild of America. She produces all the videos.
Yeah.
She is in charge of the editorial process. So even if you suck, we've never had a person who didn't get a great video because they get edited together in a way where you are going to look great. You got one of Hollywood's top producers as your video producer.
Hmm.
And in addition to my construction of the environment and the scenario, my engineering of the situation, as you put it, that really would make me I guess that makes me the co-producer and director of the situation. She's the
Hmm.
producer and it comes out great. So you're never going to look bad. You're always going to look great. I just did a video with one of my clients the other day and she's like, yeah, because we were talking about Charlie Kirk
Hmm.
and how Charlie Kirk made the ultimate sacrifice for his message. And I feel how sad that is that a person would have to sacrifice their life for a message, although it has been done many times over history. It's very, very sad. And that's another unique part of what I offer is that you can deliver your message in total safety because this is not public speaking. This is speaking to a private event. Every person who comes into my world is vetted by me. And a lot of people I don't let in because I don't like them or I don't want to work with them. I'm lucky. I don't need to work with anybody I don't want to work with. So,
I see speaking as more of like a martial art. And I like having kind of like a fight club of people that are trained in the same techniques and the shapes of stories and teaching points. And even if you see somebody else trying to apply those techniques in a different content, you can see the shapes of things. And so having a good room of curated people to create in safety is one of the proudest things that I create. And I do think this is really valuable.
yeah, if you're in a room with people who are curated, then at least you know they have a similar energy about them that makes it for a
And you can be more daring and vulnerable and like try more interesting things from the stage in
yeah,
a safe
because you
place.
know everybody knows what you're trying to do, and
Yeah.
they're all on your side. They want you to win, and they're not going to think you're an idiot because you tried something.
Yeah.
They're more likely to think that you were inspirational for trying something, even if you quote unquote failed at what you were trying to do. They knew, and but here's the thing: is that most people don't study this stuff. Like,
Of course
most
not.
people don't have the
They're spending
appreciation
time
skill.
being experts in bone broth. You spend all
Yeah,
your time learning about bone broth. How are you gonna? Of course, we got to
yeah.
respect them for that.
And you don't even have to be a great performer. You really don't. I mean, just get out there and do something,
Yeah.
because something is better than nothing.
Let me redirect us a little bit. I have some questions for you and some very specific questions now. I'm curious
Uh-huh.
about a time in your life, a specific time and a specific place in your life where you felt stuck at a plateau in your business, where you were having your own experience of however you interpret this of being like scared of visibility or struggling to become visible and not sure how what will work. Maybe you were let down many ways by many gurus yourself and felt skeptical about your ability to succeed, and you were losing connection with the work you love on the brink of burnout. When did you feel like this, Clint?
Well, I don't know if you were even born, but a lot of people were around on New Year's Eve of the millennium, December 31st, 1999. Many of them were getting cash out of an ATM for Y2K
Mm-hmm.
cash. I was behind the wheel of yellow cab number 6087 in Los Angeles, and it was my sixth year of being a taxi driver. It was my, let's see, it was my, gosh, 12th year of pursuing my Hollywood dream. After I graduated from the Wharton Business School, I moved out to Hollywood to try to become a movie star and a filmmaker, like the white version of Spike Lee, or to try to get close to some of the kids who I went to junior high school with. Robert Downey Jr. went to eighth grade with me at Junior High School 104, and John Cryer from Two and a Half Men with Charlie Sheen. He was the co-star of that show. Even after Charlie Sheen got fired off the show, they kept John Cryer on the show, and he also went to Junior High School 104. And for me, man, I wanted nothing more than the visibility. I wanted to be somebody. And on that night, there were two guys in the backseat of my taxi who were MBA interns at Goldman Sachs, and they were talking about some executive. Hey, man, did you hear about Mr. Carrera? They made him the last partner right before the Goldman IPO, and he cashed out $100 million. And I'm like, hey, are you talking about Chris Carrera? How do you know Mr. Carrera? Chris Carrera was a pledge in my fraternity at the Wharton Business School. And when I was a pledge master, I used to make those little punks dance around with their tidy whities on top of their heads. And now this little punk just cashed out $100 million. And I go back to my little boat I'm living in Marina Del Rey at the end of the night, around 6 o'clock in the morning, after dropping off the last drunk in Hollywood. And I pull out my cash out of this hiding spot in my sock, and I counted up $513. Driving a taxi on New Year's Eve of the millennium, I was supposed to be somebody special. That's why I went to the Wharton Business School. Wonder where Chris Carrera was, partying at the Rainbow Room. And that was the night that I took my 30 screenplays, a whole big carton of them, up the ramp, off the docks to the dumpster, and tossed them in the dumpster and set them on fire. And I said, I'm
Oh,
never going to write
Hollywood.
again. I'm never going to write again. What's the point of writing when no one's going to read and no one's going to give me the opportunity? And you said I had tried everything. Believe me, I had tried everything 3 times and couldn't make it happen. And that's when I gave up on my dream and quit writing forever and swore an oath that I'm never going to write again. And I just focused on making money selling gourmet food for the next 8 years.
Good work. Of
Thank
course
you.
you would do well. But, and also in your experience, sometimes when I'm like, when did you have a problem? People on the show will be like, here's
Yeah.
how I solved the problem.
Yeah.
It's not for you. So thanks for playing. All right. Now tell me about the opposite moment. Maybe the first time that you experienced celebrity and you realized, wow, I'm onto something here. This is special. There could be more to this.
In October of 2008, I was at a men's self-help campfire, and the shaman on the other side of the yellow and orange crackling flames pointed at me and he goes, "You don't know it yet, but you're already dead." And I said, "What are you talking about, man? 8 years ago, I was a cab driver. Now I'm a millionaire. I was living on a little boat. Now I live in a mansion. You're already dead. You just don't know it." And I didn't know what he was talking about, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. And I would wake up for months out of a sound sleep. I'm already dead. What does he mean? And it became New Year's Day of 2009. And I sat down to write a list of my goals for the year because I found that to become a very useful tool as I became successful as a businessman once I stopped trying to be a movie star and a writer. And inspired by the shaman that year, I asked myself a question on New Year's Day and I said, "Hey, I don't know what he really means that I'm dead. I think I'm alive, but what if he's right? What if I am already dead? Or what if this was going to be the last year of my life? What would I want to accomplish this year if I knew I was going to be dead at the end of the year?" And the first thing I wrote down was that I had to write my book about what I learned at the Wharton Business School that helped me to become successful as a businessman. And I wrote the book very quickly because I hadn't written anything in 8 years and I was like all excited to write. And then I self-published it on Amazon and waited for the sales to roll in. And man, did the sales roll in for what they teach you at the Wharton Business School. All 8 of those sales rolled in 2009. So
Ooh.
I sought out a mentor named Jack Canfield. I said, "Jack, how do you sell 500,000,000 Chicken Soup for the Soul books?" And he goes, "Well, you got to be kind of famous. People don't buy books from nobodies. They only buy books from people who are kind of famous." And I said, "Okay." So I hired a publicist. I paid her a lot of money, $6,000 for the first 4 TV bookings that she got me. And I showed those videos to my wife. I said, "Honey, what do you think?" And she goes, "I think you kind of suck." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but I better do a lot more TV if I'm ever going to get good at this, if I'm ever going to achieve my goal of getting on the Today Show. So I'm going to hire this publicist, and like 10 more bookings is going to cost me $15,000. She was 1,500 per booking. And my wife goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Why do you keep paying this lady? Why don't you book yourself on TV?" And I'm like, "How the hell do you think?" I'm thinking, how the hell do you book yourself on TV? How do you do that? It took me 9.5 weeks to figure out how to do that, booking myself on my first TV show myself, which was WLOX on Biloxi, Mississippi, ABC TV affiliate. And that was like catching a fish. I was the fish. I was kind of hooked on the excitement and the thrill of saving $1,500 every time I booked myself on TV. Because like I said in the beginning of this interview, a person who's really good for me as a client is a person who really wants it, because I really wanted it. I really wanted, like, now that I had the power to book myself on TV, I really wanted to do it a lot.
Hmm.
And I did. I got myself on 7 appearances the first year, and then another 20 appearances the second year. And that's when I started teaching people how to do it.
But
And
but still, I want a gem. Like fast forward, and then I got the result. I
yeah,
was on a
I'm
vacation,
I'm
or
right
okay.
there. And then uh, for me, the real thrill came after 56 TV appearances when I was at a vegan weight loss retreat with my wife over New Year's vacation, trying to lose weight. And one morning I wake up at 7:08 a.m. because my phone had rung and it went to voicemail, and I played the voicemail and said, "Hi Clint, this is Allie calling from the Today Show. We were wondering if you could be available to join us in the studio at 30 Rockefeller Center on New Year's Eve. So please call me back at this number." And I thought it was a joke because my wife's name is Allie. I thought somebody was pranking me, but I did some vocal warm ups. And 3 minutes later, I hurried up and called her back because I knew she was trying to fill a slot for that show. And if it wasn't me, it was going to be somebody else within an hour. So I called her back in 3 minutes and I said, "Hi, Allie, this is Clint Arthur returning your call." She goes, "Oh, hi, Clint. Thanks so much for calling me back. We were wondering if you could join us in studio. Are you going to be in New York City on New Year's Eve?" And I was planning on being in San Diego at this retreat that I paid a lot of money to be at. And I said, "Of course I'm going to be in New York in New Year's Eve." And she goes, "Oh, wonderful. Well, we'd like you to come in studio and talk about how to have a powerful new year." I said, "Okay, well, send me the call time and, what questions you want me to think about. And yeah, as soon as you send me that email, I will reply to it and confirm this appearance." And 3 days later, I was sitting 5 feet away from Brooke Shields in Studio 1A at 30 Rockefeller Center. And I was scared out of my mind. And if I hadn't had done 56 previous TV appearances all around the country, then I probably would have wet my pants, because that's how scary it was to be in Studio 1A with 1,000 lights in the ceiling and 10 cameras and 100 people jammed into every crevice of that little studio at 30 Rockefeller Center. But uh, that was the big goal. And amazingly enough, the next, my wife and I, we went out partying, drinking all night long. We were in Times Square for the ball drop. Anderson Cooper was up on the stage doing New Year's Eve from Times Square. And I said to my wife, I'm getting a selfie with Anderson Cooper tonight. And I did. The next morning I woke up and I said to my wife, you know what's funny is that I feel like I'm done drinking. We had been drinking champagne till 1:30 in the morning, but at 10 a.m. I was done drinking. And we went out to brunch at a beautiful restaurant overlooking Central Park. And she ordered a glass of Prosecco and I ordered a bottle of Pellegrino. And thinking about this over the years, I've realized that the reason why I was done drinking is because I had achieved my significance. I had achieved my personal contribution to the world by sharing my message about, hey, when I was on the show, Brooke Shields and Willie Geist asked me the question. They say, hey, you ask yourself a really interesting question every year, Clint. What's that question? I said, ask yourself, if this was going to be the last year of your life, what would you want to accomplish? That's been my superpower. That has enabled me to achieve so much over these years. And by making that ascension to the peak of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I no longer felt the need to drink alcohol, which came as the hugest surprise to me in my entire life, because nobody liked drinking alcohol more than me. But all of a sudden, it was gone. And that was almost 12 years ago that I haven't had a drop to drink.
2012.
December 31st, 2013.
2013. These are all New Year's. How fun. How celebrity. All right. Are you ready to hear your story?
Yes.
I can remember my early days of dreaming of celebrity. Driving a cab in LA in 2009, hoping I was going to see my buddies like Robert Downey Jr. that I grew up with in New York in middle school on the street. I had this stash of screenplays in my boat that I knew someday were going to get seen, someday we're going to get noticed, and I was going to have another Hollywood success story. I remember one night, one New Year's Eve, driving a cab and between daydreaming of celebrities. Oh, and this New Year's Eve was Y2K, when the world was going down. Everybody's pulling cash out of their ATMs. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. And I'm driving these two guys in nice suits. And they're talking about a Chris that they knew that ended up making millions of dollars in an offer. And I said, oh, I knew him. He was in my fraternity and I used to make him dance around. I laughed at the connection, but then I kind of realized, man, I'm here in a cab. What have I amounted to? I went back to my boat in my arena and pull out the tiny sock of cash that I have to stash. $115 on the last night at the end of the world where everybody's throwing money around. I wonder what Chris is doing right now. Probably having this incredible party. And I'm here on this boat. I was supposed to be somebody special. I can remember taking my stacks and stacks of screenplays and, like I was in a movie myself, setting them on fire and saying, I'm never going to write again. Nobody will ever know. And I decided then I was going to find a way to make my money and change. But I kept coming back to this strange feeling of not being seen, of anonymous. 8 years later, another New Year's, I'm at a men's self-help retreat. I feel like I've made something of myself. In 8 years, I've gone from taxi driver to millionaire. I had the money. I had the status. But I still didn't feel the satisfaction. And now this man covered in feathers looking across me from a fire is saying, you don't know it, but you're already dead. And I laugh at him. How silly are you? You don't know how far I've come. But I wake up for months wondering what he was doing and what he was talking about. And I started to ask myself, if I am going to die, what would the last year of my life really look like? I wanted to sell books. I wanted to be known. I wanted to be famous. So I started putting myself out there, booking myself, building out this celebrity. It cost a lot of money. And I made a lot of mistakes and I went to a lot of the wrong places until my wife was like, why are you spending all this money on a publicist? Why don't you just get a TV person yourself? And I remember the first time I booked my own TV show, it felt like catching my first fish. I was hooked. I was on. And 56 appearances later, I started building out a process, a way that I could make celebrity a scalable way to grow my business, my brand. As I started embracing more celebrity things, I started feeling more like a celebrity. More celebrity things started happening to me. More celebrities started to gravitate towards me. This started going from just this pipe dream and this imagination to a clear and tangible path to success. And I started loving the work I was doing, every moment of it. And then a few years and a lot of costly and painful mistakes later, I had another New Year's that would change my life. I'm at a vegan retreat with my wife trying to lose weight, and I get a call saying, what was the show? Today Show? No, Today Show. Yeah. Hey, this is 30 Rockefeller, and we would love to have you at the Today Show at Studio 1A for New Year's Eve to tell us about how to live a great life. And I say, absolutely. I can remember speaking and sharing my vision, sharing that exact wisdom that once changed my life of if you only had a year to live, what would you do? And then partying it up with my wife, seeing the ball drop on Times Square, and waking up the next morning with a strange insight. Even after drinking all night and having a good time, when we sit down for breakfast, I order water instead of a Prosecco for the first time. And I realized that this process of embracing my own celebrity, of becoming who I needed to become to speak on the Today Show, changed me. And the things that I used to draw from alcohol, like, created significance in myself and in my own life and in who I was. And because I was proud enough of who I was, I didn't need this thing anymore, which was so strange because I grew up loving drinking. Now, for me, that little change showed me how far I had come. And I believe the same is possible for you. And I have spent over 20 years crafting this into a formula that's repeatable, that's possible for anyone. And if you want to experience the power and growth that celebrity can have for you, I hope that you'll join me. And here's what I'm going to teach you today.
Yep, there you go.
Thank you. Well,
I like
Clint,
the feathers. I never said feathers before.
I
like
drew
the
that from
feathers.
actually I have another guy who made that detail of a man covered in feathers, calling him out in a very similar way.
He
But
was a shaman.
yeah, I've got a few shaman stories. But
Yeah, that was good. I like the feathers. It's very visual.
you've got to give them something to be in the room with you. But you know this really well. You were very easy to work with, and I didn't even
Thank
have
you.
to do very much changing of what you already said. But it's always fun to serve and create with the brilliant ones.
Yeah, this is the thing that people don't get, is that a great story doesn't happen just like that. You know, I have worked with so many speaking and storytelling mentors over
Mm,
the years to get my story to where it is.
yeah,
You know, and I think that I will take this detail about the feathers and add it in to what
great.
I've been working on for years. Right. So
Then
thank you for that.
I've done my job. That's perfect. Okay,
Hey,
Clint. Well,
to contribute to this story, that's, you know, it's a I think a privilege to contribute to anyone's story. You know, I work with a lot of these doctors and help them to have a story because they don't have a story. And what they don't realize is that they should be telling every single person that walks into their examining room their story. And the smart ones use it, and the dumb ones think that they're too smart to use stories, that they just have to have the information. But the smart ones who use the story, this is the best marketing you can do, is telling your story. So to participate in what should be the number one go-to piece of marketing that any expert is using, that's a privilege. So, you know, I understand, and thank you for participating.
I feel seen. Well, Clint, where can we go to learn more about you and connect with you?
Right there, baby.
You
Clint with
got it.
3Ts.com.
That's part of the celebrity process there. Make it super easy. All right. Clint Arthur, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Story Engine podcast with us today.
Thanks, Kyle. Have a great one.